Hello, I'm BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today is the first episode of a new series which we're going to call Modelers with Their Models.
Nice.
And thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
We have Kobey here, and Kobey is going to talk about, what do you have here, Kobey?
I have a little 144th scale Focke-Wulf D9.
Okay, so when we're saying little, now 1/144 scale in a plane, well, that would be like 5 or 6 centimeter wingspan, wouldn't it?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very small. Very small. So you can get 1 to 700, 1 to 200, which are mainly for ships.
Yes.
But then 144,
Yeah.
which is what we call it.
Yes.
That's like the smallest scale you can go just for presentation alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And with 1/144 scale, I can see it's becoming much more popular. Like in the past, 1/144 scale would be just things like, 72nd scale would be really popular.
Yes.
And then say a bomber,
Yeah.
and 1/72nd scale would be too big, and so you'll see quite a few large aircraft in 1/144.
That's right.
But with your fighter, yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah, that's right. I like it because it's like a desktop scale. So you can build these and display them on a desktop.
Yes.
You don't have to have like a cabinet for them. They don't
Yes.
take up a lot of room.
Yeah.
So the more the merrier.
Right.
144th scale started off as the airline scale.
Yes,
So
that's
a
right.
lot of airliners are still made in 144th scale.
Yes.
As well as you said, big bombers, Cold War bombers. But now companies are producing fighters. So they started off with, larger fighters like the F-18 and
Yes.
and whatnot, F-35s, and now they're going into Second World War fighters. Which
There's quite a lot of brands too now, aren't there?
Yeah, there are, absolutely. So this is an Eduard Platts kit.
Yes.
So Eduard have released it and Platts have released it. And yeah, very, very simple kit. Has around 20 to 25 parts, which
Right.
is what I really like about them. You can add a lot of detail to them.
So it's very much a finishing type of kit, I guess, like a painter's kit. It's pretty quick to assemble.
Yes.
Right.
You don't spend too much time. Having said that, I did spend a bit of time in the cockpit, detailing that up a little bit, but not necessary for all of them, I suppose.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk about the construction stage. So we've talked about it doesn't have a lot of parts. So 20 parts as such.
Yep.
So the fuselage, that's in halves, is it?
Yeah, so it comes in two halves,
Yep.
and then this top part here basically goes on where the guns are.
Oh, so the engine cowling on the top there.
Yes, so
Yes.
there's like a separate engine cowling,
Yep.
and then there's a separate top part,
Yes.
and then there's the two fuselage halves.
Right.
And there's really no cockpit detail. It only comes with a seat. I had to create the stick myself. I made some rudder pedals in there,
Right.
well, which you can't see, but
Yeah, it's one of those
I
things.
know it's there.
Well, that's right. I guess it depends on how far you want to push the build, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then the wings, were they in multiple parts?
That's in 3 parts.
3 parts. So
Yeah.
there's a bottom part, is there?
Yes, so the single bottom part
Yes.
all the way around, which wraps into the fuselage. So most Focke-Wulf kits,
Yes.
it actually goes to here. If you
Oh,
can see.
okay. Quite far down on the tail.
Yes, a bit far down on the tail.
Right. Okay.
So all this is the same piece of plastic.
Might just get a bit closer there. So here we go.
So down where this access hatch is, that's
Right.
where the seam is.
Oh, right. Okay.
You can kind of actually see it a little bit there in the corner.
Oh, yeah. But I guess it makes it integrate
Yes,
quite nicely.
correct. And then up towards the front portion is where the other half is.
I guess at this point we can also see all the detail that's been molded into this kit.
Yeah.
So this is really nice for Eduard to be able to do all these really fine panel lines.
Absolutely. Very fine recessed panel lines. So not too over the top. You might find some kits have really deep panel lines for 144, like Trumpeter.
Yes.
They have really robust panel lines.
Right.
Whereas when you're getting into Eduard, Platts, Mark 1 models, they all have really finely recessed panel lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. I like it. Because I think I've taken like video for you before and some photos.
Yep.
And from those, without any reference objects near it, it really looks bigger than it is.
Yeah,
because of the really fine lines.
You could definitely say it looks like maybe 172, because a lot of 172nd scale, it's just the panel lines, no riveting.
Yes.
So very similar, in terms of gauge of panel lines for that as well.
Okay, so with the construction is quite straightforward, right? So you've added a few bits yourself.
Yep.
Now, if we talk about painting, so the finishing.
Yep.
Now, after you build it, you do a little bit of sanding and puttying as well, do you?
No, so this actually is like a really superb kit to put together.
Right.
There was no real filling or puttying like in many other of my models. It all pretty much just falls together like an Eduard kit or a Tamiya kit.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty much just out of the box in terms of like building, no puttying or plastic card.
Oh, that makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, so all that time that I would usually spend on filling stuff and rescribing, you know, doing panel lines, I put that effort into scratch building.
Okay.
So like the antennas, the gun barrels, the pitot tube.
Yes, we can see here. So these really fine antennas that you use from the cockpit to the tip of the vertical stabilizer.
Yeah.
So what material did you use there?
That is hair.
Is that your hair?
That's my hair.
Right.
And I have curly hair, so I had to straighten it with a hair straightener.
Right, you've done a good job there.
Yeah, so that's just, you have to use PVA glue on the canopy.
Right.
And then super glue on the vertical stabilizer.
Yes.
And then super glue for those ones as well, the middlework section.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of added detail just helps take it to the next level.
That's right.
Okay, so with the construction, we move on to the painting. Now with something that's small, do you prime it?
Yes, so I primed it in Mr. Surfacer 1500 black.
So that's really, really fine. That's like a semi-gloss, I guess.
Yeah, you could say
it's got a sheen on it, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure I might have even polished it a little bit.
Right.
Just to create that really fine surface texture.
Right.
Almost polished, like.
Yes.
To get that really, really fine surface.
Yes.
And then I actually stuffed up the painting and I had to sand down the whole green section.
Oh, really?
The two colours I used, the RLM 81 and 82,
yes,
they were too close to each other. So it had no contrast in the paint.
Right, yeah, you need a bit of contrast, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it's a little bit hard to see on the camera here, the contrast that it has. Maybe in the light.
Let me see if I can...
A little bit like that, you can see. There's a little bit more contrast there.
Yes, so there's definitely a definition between the greens you've got there.
Yes.
And I think, in a way, the smaller scales need a little bit of help there.
They do.
Yeah, because the lighting is quite diffused.
That's right. But you can't go overboard on, like, say, pigment weathering or oil weathering, because that's, like, really for larger scale, or even pre and post shading.
Yes.
In this really small scale, it just looks kind of toy-like.
Right, okay.
So I opted just for a simple panel wash to really unify it all together with those colours.
So how did you apply your colours here? Because you got multiple. It's a German camouflage. So you've got two lots of green, which is from the top. Then on the side and the base, you've got, what is it, light blue?
So I think it's RLM 76.
Right.
See if I can get it here.
Is that the light blue?
Yeah, so the light blue is RLM 76.
Right.
And I basically use the black basing to modulate that with my airbrush.
Oh, I see.
So I just dial it in really low air pressure.
Did you also thin down the paint more than you would normally?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's almost like a glaze.
Yeah, pretty much. And you just go over it in multiple layers. So I think I did maybe 3 passes.
Okay.
And then like the last pass is just misting it to really tie it all in.
And I guess that's why the panel lines are sort of pronounced too.
Yes.
Because the black was already there, when you're airbrushing it, it normally only sits across the top of the surface.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a double effect there.
It works really well.
Which is really good.
Yep.
I'm very happy with that. But yeah, the RLM 76, I believe it is, that was probably my favourite part of the build because I got it right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, it looks really nice there. So there's a nice contrast between the two greens and that blue. Now the definition between the greens across the top of the fuselage and the blue on the side, is that all freehand airbrushing?
Yes, so from the canopy, from the forward canopy to the very aft of the aircraft with this grey, I think it's 76,
right?
I'm pretty sure. Oh no, 76 is the blue and then 75 is the grey.
Okay.
That's all freehand,
right?
So no masking.
Okay.
But when you come up into this cowling, which was a separate part that was salvaged off of another aircraft, that was masked.
Right, okay.
It's one of the
I
only...
like the way you've done that, because that's given it more character again.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you have to get really, really close with your airbrush to be able to get that fine?
Yes, I did.
Yes?
I did, and I had it dialed in super low pressure.
Yeah.
With very high paint thinning ratio.
Yes.
And then you come in very, very close.
Right.
And you just sit there for a while.
And you can just build it up.
Yeah, build it up, because
Okay.
it doesn't run
Right.
with such low pressure.
Yes.
It's drying in that really short time in between.
Okay.
And then the only other colours I had was this silver, which I use Model Masters for.
Okay, so the silver you use for the bottom of the wings.
Yes, so they ran out of paint in this portion of the war.
Okay.
For the factory that they were making them at. So they basically were mostly delivered with silver on this back part of the wing.
Right.
And then a singular colour band of this RLM 81, I believe,
Okay.
on the front.
Yes.
So there's like a nice contrast on the wing between the three colours here.
It sure is.
So,
Yeah, the finish too, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with that, so we're talking about the painting, and then after the painting, I guess we talk about decals. So the decals just go on.
So the decals were just the Eduard decals supplied in the kit.
Yes.
The register is a little bit out. Like you can see here on the 4, the white at the front
Yes.
is a little bit more than on the back.
Oh,
so it's been
okay.
printed a little bit off. But like that's something that you really have to look into.
Well, I guess that's a danger with small scales too, right?
That's right.
So on a bigger scale, you probably would notice that so much.
Yeah. But I just sealed them in with Mr. Mark Setter Strong.
Yes.
The Tamiya Mark Set Strong.
Yep.
Which was really good, especially for these little ones. And yeah, the seatbelts are also decals, but I've printed them onto tinfoil and then cut them out.
To give them some depth, I guess.
Yeah,
some
some
substance.
3D aspect to them. So yeah.
Okay, I think the decals look really well done.
Thank
you.
you.
Now there's always a discussion about whether or not to gloss coat and such, and I don't think there will ever be, anyone who will agree one way or the other.
That's
but
right.
I mean, you've been able to achieve these without any decal silvering. And for those that don't know what silvering is, that's when the surfaces don't touch properly, right?
Yes, that's correct.
On the base, and you see that reflection coming back from that air pocket.
The film,
Yeah.
the clear film that remains.
Yes.
So I clear coat all of my aircraft in GX100 before the decal stage.
GX100 is a gloss?
That's like a really clear gloss by Mr. Hobby.
Okay.
And it's a lacquer based, so it's very, very strong.
Yes.
And very clear. It's polishable. So after I did all my painting, I did the GX100 clear gloss, put the decals on, and then I did a wash on top of the decals in that clear, just because of how well the decals sat.
Yeah.
And then from there, I did a flat coat, which then I could do my weathering, which was the exhaust and the chipping.
So all the colours here, the greens and all the blues and such, were they acrylic?
They were acrylic that were then made into lacquers with the
lacquer thinner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So these were like Tamiya and Mr. Hobby types.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the greens were Tamiya, and then
Yes.
the bluey grey is Mr. Hobby.
Okay. Well, that's worked out well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about the weathering as well.
Yep.
So you've done some washes.
Yes.
Was there anything else you did to enhance the weathering?
So I used Tamiya black panel liner for the green areas because it has a much darker pigment than all the others, so it was a good contrast.
Yep.
Whereas on the greys and the silvers and the darker greys on the back, I chose for like a brown wash for German brown vehicles.
So it wasn't so stark.
Yeah, so that was an Ammo MiG product.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's worked out well.
Yeah. So it just gives a nicer contrast, and you can't really see the effect.
No, it's super smooth.
And it's not too harsh on the eye as well, the brown.
Yes.
It looks more like grime rather
Yes.
than oil and
Yes.
whatnot. And then I just airbrushed the exhaust stain coming from the stacks at the front.
Oh, yes, and over the wing.
Yes, and over the wing. Yeah.
Okay, you can just see that.
And chipping was done using this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that you introduced me to, and I tried it, and I thought this was great. Now this is a silver pencil.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so this particular one is Prismacolor, and this is one that everyone raves on about, right?
That's right. That's the only reason I got it, is because everyone else loved it. I had to try it for myself.
Yes.
This is actually one of the first subjects I've properly done it on.
Yes.
My usual method is a lacquer base silver,
Yep.
which we'll see later on my other models when we do those.
Yes.
And I chip them from acrylic.
Yes.
So I'll paint an acrylic base over that.
Yeah.
And then chip under. But this is like, with the flat base that I put on to seal it all in, the last phase is chipping, which is usually really good to do. And yeah, it's come up really nice, I think, in the scale.
I think so. So for those of you who can see, it's all the chipping that's around the cockpit and such, and it's actually really subtle. So it does have a metallic pigment in it that picks up on certain angles.
It does, absolutely.
And then from other angles, well, it sort of blends in.
So it
And I
does.
think it's amazing.
It does everything that my like lacquer chipping does,
Yes.
and more. So
Yes.
it's like better in this scale, I find. And you just like bump the pencil up, and it'll catch on the matte fibers.
That's right. And I mean, I borrowed this off you, and I used it actually on my last diorama, and it came up a treat.
Yeah, it's really good. I'll definitely be using it in the future.
So the nib is quite blunt now, but it still works, right?
Yeah, it will 100% work.
Because you just tag a little bit off the edges.
I'd definitely have it a lot sharper than that.
Yes.
I mean, it's been sitting in my bag for some time as well.
Right.
So I'd sharpen that as crisp as I could get it.
Right.
Just with an ordinary pencil sharpener. And then like with that really fine point, you can come and just bump the surface.
Yes.
So it doesn't work on a flat surface, on a gloss
surface. It needs some sort of coarseness to be able to
attach
grab onto.
to. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So that's something, if any of you want to try it, being mindful that it won't work on a gloss surface. You'll have to use it on a flat or potentially semi-gloss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Really good. I guess one more question. Oh, you got the prop is
free spinning.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only other thing would be with your canopy.
Yep.
So what do you use to mask something this small? Do you use like...
It's amazing. The kit came with canopy masks.
Oh, did it? Oh,
Yeah.
such as Eduard do. Right.
It's amazing.
So they were, were they like vinyl type ones or the paper type ones?
They were like Tamiya tape type.
Oh, okay, right.
So
like a crepe paper type.
the front 3 sections of the window,
Yes.
they were all pre-cut.
Right.
But then they gave you this like little half cut for the rear canopy that
Right.
slides. And you basically had to mask the rest with masking fluid.
Oh, okay, that's easy enough, isn't it?
Yep, so you just use Airfix
Like a mask hole or something
mask
like that.
on, that's right.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
stinks, but it works.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty crisp.
Yeah, it came up really nice. I really like if you can get any Focke-Wulf kit, definitely recommend to get a full molded canopy section, because I know some of them come with the back bit separate, and you have to glue the glass to it. So
Yes. And you always have that
you have
gap,
an issue.
right?
Yeah, there's always a gap. So if it's pre-molded, at least you can get away with just the masking, which is enough to make it
Yes.
look nice and real.
Certainly. Yeah, that's really good. Actually, I forgot to ask you about the actual aircraft.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So this is what is it? It's a Focke-Wulf
D9.
190 D9, which is a stretched.
That's correct.
It had the non-radial engine, so it's got a longer nose.
So it has a 12-cylinder inline, which
Right.
was taken out of the Ju-88.
Oh, I see.
So they basically attached that, but then they were having weight issues.
Right.
So they extended the rear fuselage with this band that you can see here.
Oh, okay, so the tail's been stretched a
The
little bit.
tail has been stretched a little bit.
Okay.
But other than that, it's pretty much a regular Focke-Wulf.
Right.
It's like a Jumo 213 engine. They started with a BMW,
Right.
but then it had issues. So this was a high altitude fighter. That's what it was predominantly designed for.
Right.
Intercepting bombers at
Yes.
those high altitudes that the radial engines couldn't quite achieve.
Right. Okay. I actually quite like the aesthetics of this.
Yeah.
I like how it's sort of stretched out and quite organic.
It is a really nice type of Focke-Wulf. This is like a really nice, sleek aircraft compared to the really chunky A to F models.
Yes.
Which still are really respectable for their roles, but just completely different types of aircraft.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
First episode.
There we go.
There we go. So there is Kobey with his Eduard Platz, was it?
Eduard Platz.
Eduard
Yes,
Platz, one of the 144 scale Focke-Wulf D9.
9. Yeah, Dora.
Okay. Adora. Very nice indeed. So if you'd like to join us, if you'd like to talk about your model, get in touch with us. Just pop your details or your request in the comments and we'll get in touch with you. And if you'd like to see some more content, please think about subscribing to the channel. So thanks for joining us. Thanks, Kobey.
Thank you.
Cheers.